Welcome, everyone. It's great to be here with you again, fellow students of the course.
Yes, welcome. Today, we're diving into Lesson 148.
And we also have a question from one of you that we'll get to later.
Sounds good. Let's start with the lesson itself.
Okay, Lesson 148, 135. If I defend myself, I am attacked. 136. Sickness is a defense against the truth. You know, speaking of feeling attacked, last night I made the mistake of reading some news headlines right before bed.
Oh, dear. Yeah, I know that feeling.
I just went to bed feeling quite disturbed, heavy.
I get that. It is so easy to get pulled into those narratives, isn't it? So much fear, so much division being pushed.
It sometimes just feels like the world has gone mad.
And that's understandable. But it helps to remember this is what the Course calls the ego's world we're looking at.
The world of conflict, separation, and loss.
Right. Which isn't our true home. The Holy Spirit, the Course tells us, sees things differently.
Sees everyone as either giving love or, well, calling for it, even if it looks like attack.
And that's the challenge, isn't it? Wanting to be a voice for hope, for that perspective, but without ignoring the real suffering people experience.
How do we respond with love, not more fear?
It's a constant practice.
Yeah, sometimes the urge is just to crawl under the covers and, give up.
I know that urge well.
But seriously, the other option is there. We can take that distress, that feeling to the Holy Spirit, ask to see it differently.
That willingness. It's such a relief to remember that's always available. Those earlier lessons really do build the foundation.
They absolutely do.
Yeah.
And that experience ties right into today's main idea, doesn't it? My mind holds only what I think with God. It's about choosing which thoughts to hold.
It connects perfectly. So are you feeling okay to sort of unpack this lesson now after that heavy feeling last night?
Oh, yes. Thank you for asking.
Yeah.
Actually, talking about it and remembering how the Course gives us tools for this exact kind of frustration helps a lot. And I'm not alone in feeling that way.
Good. Glad to hear it. So let's dig into the first key takeaway from this lesson.
Which is?
Defensiveness signals fear, not strength.
Okay, and first off, this doesn't mean, like, stop locking your door or ignoring safety.
Not at all. It's asking a deeper question. When we feel that need to defend ourselves, our ideas, our positions, what's the underlying story we're buying into?
The ego story, right, that we're vulnerable, separate, under constant threat.
Exactly. That danger is real, and we must protect this fragile self.
But the Course turns that on its head. It says that constant defense actually just confirms our belief in weakness. We keep identifying with that frightened self.
Whereas real strength, the strength of spirit, doesn't require that kind of defense. It comes from trust.
A quiet confidence, maybe?
Yeah.
Letting go of the need to control everything?
Yes. So that feeling of defensiveness becomes like an alarm bell, a signal. Okay, what fear just got triggered here? What am I believing about myself right now? It's an opportunity.
That's a really helpful way to frame it. What are some ways this shows up that maybe aren't so obvious, like subtle defenses?
Good question. Maybe think about feeling the need to immediately justify a simple choice you made, even if no one's questioning it.
Oh, yeah. Or getting really prickly if someone just disagrees with your opinion on something minor.
Exactly. That quick jump to explain or argue. It can often stem from a hidden fear of being seen as wrong or not good enough. That's defensiveness.
Okay, that makes sense. Let's move to the second takeaway then. This one can be tricky.
It definitely can. Sickness is a form of self-deception.
Right. And it's so important to emphasize this isn't about blaming someone for being sick.
Absolutely crucial. The Course isn't saying you consciously chose illness or that it's a punishment. It's using sickness as a potent symbol.
A symbol of what, exactly?
Of the mind's core belief that it is a body, separate, fragile, doomed to decay and attack.
So the intense focus on the body and its ailments distracts us.
From the deeper truth that we are eternal spirit, already whole and safe. It's like a magician's misdirection. Look here at the suffering body, not there at your invulnerable self.
But again, this doesn't mean ignore your body or don't seek medical help.
Of course not. Practical care is necessary and compassionate. The invitation is to look alongside that, to ask gently, is there some part of me that's maybe afraid of the truth, afraid of peace, afraid of letting go of this identity?
Because the idea is that healing, true healing, begins when we stop defending against love, against our wholeness.
That's the core idea, when we start being willing to let that love in.
So how might viewing sickness this way as a symbol actually change how we approach well-being?
Well, if you see a physical symptom not just as a physical problem, but potentially reflecting a deeper mental pattern or fear.
You might explore that too. look at underlying stress or unforgiveness or beliefs about yourself.
Exactly. It could lead to a more holistic approach, addressing the mind and the spirit, not only the body's mechanics.
Which falls right into the third key point.
Which is, healing comes from the mind, not the body.
Okay, let's unpack that. Real healing, in the Course's terms, isn't just the body getting better, though that might happen.
Right. The fundamental healing is a shift in perception. That moment, that instant, where we stop seeing ourselves as broken, lacking, or alone.
It's a remembering.
A remembering of our true identity, our connection to source, our inherent wholeness. The ego is always looking for fixes out there.
Pills, procedures, changes in circumstance.
Yes, solutions within the illusion. But the spirit offers something different.
Peace. Inner peace.
Exactly. And when we choose to see with love, to see ourselves and others through that lens, regardless of the body's condition, we reconnect.
We start living from that place of trust, rather than constantly trying to protect this false idea of who we are.
We shift allegiance from the ego's fear to the spirit's love.
Can you think of a time, maybe personally, where changing your perspective seemed to impact a physical issue?
Yes, actually. There was a time I was dealing with really persistent insomnia. Tried all the usual things, sleep hygiene, cutting caffeine.
Nothing worked.
Not really. Then I started doing some deeper coursework around forgiveness, specifically some old resentments I hadn't quite faced. Wasn't directly about sleep.
But as you worked on the mental-emotional level.
As I genuinely began to release that stuff, to shift my mind towards peace in that area, my sleep just started getting better, significantly better. It felt like the physical symptom eased up as the mental knot loosened.
Wow, that's a great example of the mind leading.
It felt that way.
Okay, this brings us to the listener question we mentioned. Someone shared that after a cancer diagnosis, they were told by another person, presumably someone familiar with spiritual ideas, that they must have caused it with their thinking.
Oof. Yeah, that's incredibly painful to hear, especially during such a vulnerable time.
And they wanted to know if the Course actually supports that view.
Let's be absolutely clear. No. The Course does not support blaming people for their illnesses or suggesting they caused them through wrong thinking. That is a harmful distortion.
It completely misses the heart of the Course, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's all about love, compassion, joining, not judgment or spiritual one-upmanship.
Precisely. That kind of statement, "you caused your cancer," is actually an example of the ego's thinking. Separation, judgment, making oneself better than. It's the very thinking the Course aims to undo.
So the Course never teaches that people deserve illness or are less spiritual if they get sick.
Never. Within this dream world we experience, illness and injury feel very real. They happen. And the compassionate response is care, support, and empathy.
But there's another level of understanding the Course offers.
Yes. Stepping back, from the perspective outside the ego's dream, these things are seen differently, not as punishments, but as manifestations, miscreations, reflections of that deep underlying belief in separation from God, from love, from our true self.
So the illness becomes part of the ego's story about what pain means, but the body is a story that keeps us feeling trapped.
Exactly. A story of victimhood, fragility, and fear. But the Holy Spirit offers a different story, a different interpretation of the same experience.
Which is?
Simply, this is a call for love, and love can answer this. Not necessarily by instantly fixing the body, but by bringing peace to the mind about the body.
That's a much gentler, more empowering perspective. How can someone facing illness hold both these realities, the physical suffering and the spiritual perspective?
Perhaps by gently acknowledging the reality of the experience without making it the whole story. You could say to yourself something like, okay, I feel this pain. I acknowledge it without shame or blame, and I'm willing to see this differently. I ask for the Holy Spirit's perspective.
So you're honoring the human part, the part that hurts.
While inviting in the spiritual truth. It doesn't mean denying the experience. You still go to the doctor, you rest, you cry if you need to.
But inwardly, there's a quiet invitation.
Yes. Let this be healed in its meaning, not just its form. Help me remember, I am not this pain, not this body alone. It opens the door to a different kind of healing, a healing of the mind.
That feels much more aligned with the compassion of the Course.
It aims to be.
Wow. Well, that brings us toward the end of our deep dive for today. We've certainly covered some significant ground.
We really have, starting with that feeling of being overwhelmed by the world's negativity.
And remembering we have the Holy Spirit to help us see beyond the fear, to see the call for love underneath everything.
And then exploring defensiveness, how it comes from fear, and how real peace comes from trust, not barricades.
And tackling the complex idea of sickness as a symbol of separation, with true healing being that mental shift back to recognizing our wholeness.
And importantly, addressing that listener's question head on, reaffirming that the Course is about love and compassion, not blaming people for their struggles.
Yes, emphasizing the difference between the ego's story about suffering and the Holy Spirit's loving interpretation, and how we can invite that shift while still caring for ourselves physically.
It's about holding both gently.
So maybe a final thought for everyone listening. How might you apply this core idea, my mind holds only what I think with God, to one specific challenge you're facing right now?
A powerful invitation.
Well, that really does wrap up our discussion for today. Thank you so much for joining us on this exploration.
It's truly always a pleasure to dive into these lessons and share the space with all of you. We genuinely hope our chat about defense, sickness, and true healing offered some helpful perspectives.
And we will be right back here with you again tomorrow.
That's right. Please join us then. We'll be continuing our review with Lesson 149.
Until then, keep up your practice, and we'll talk to you very soon.
And remember, you can always reach us with comments or questions at ACIM@theworldharmonyproject.org.
And you can find us on TikTok too, at the World Harmony Project.
Bye, everyone.
Bye now.